So far we have our character who can idle, and he can walk around and also run faster, which is great. But let's go ahead and actually implement our jump. So we will need to so we will need to create an input action. Then we add that action to our player's blueprint, and then we will go ahead into our animation blueprint and implement the animations there. So let's start with the input action. Input. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. Input action. IA underscore jump. Great. Open it up, and we need two triggers. We need one that's pressed, and then we need another one that is released. And the reason for this is because when we press the button, there's a specific function that Unreal has coded which starts the jump, and we need that function to stop. So we also use another Unreal specific function to stop it when the button is released, so that your character doesn't jump to infinity every time the button is pressed. So that's what that is. Now we need to go back to our input mapping context, and we will add the jump. And let's see, spacebar. And then I believe for the gamepad, for Souls games, Elden Ring, I believe it's the bottom one. So let's see, it's face, button, bottom. There we go. Okay. Save. Now we go to our player blueprint. Let's delete the third person one. We don't want that. So IA jump. This is great. So this is where we'll actually use these different things. Triggered, started, ongoing. So triggered, to my understanding, it reevaluates the code in a loop according to a timer. I don't know how long it is, how long a processing tick is. It'll keep reevaluating. Started means it'll only do it once you press the button, but we want triggered. So let's go ahead and connect to this jump function into that. And then, because we don't want the character to keep jumping and jumping as it's recalculating the code in a loop, we want it to be completed when it is released. So that's why we did the pressed and the released, so that it correlates with these here on the input actions to work properly. So that is all we really need to do for the coding side of it here. Now let's hop into the animation blueprint to implement the animations. Alright, so we have our anim graph here, and I want to go over a very important workflow in the animation blueprint that I did not cover in the other one. And that has to do with the transitions here. Whenever you have a state, so let me go ahead and add a state here. I'll call it jump. You'll see that it has a rule. And we need to implement something in here, otherwise it won't take place. Look, I'll do it and it gives me a warning. Hey, you need some sort of rule. And how the rules work is you code the conditions in the character blueprint, and then remember how I showed that example with the silly mom boolean? That's what we'd be doing. We would then go to the event graph and set it. So let me quickly show you how it works. Don't do this because we're going to be doing a very specific one for jumping. I'm just using this as a teaching moment. So what we would do, if we weren't doing it the proper way, we're going to do it the wrong way, is you would create a variable in your player blueprint. And I've already made one here called isJumping. So we set it, which means you're setting a value for it. And we want it to be true, so we check the box. So when you press the button, jumping is set to be true. And when you stop jumping, jumping is set to be false, which is great. So then if I go back into the animation blueprint here, if I get my player ref and drag off it, I'll be able to get that boolean. So it was called isJumping, I believe. Yeah, so I get it. And what I need here is I need an animation blueprint specific one to link to this one. So I've already created one called jumping. Again, you name them similar so you can understand, remember what's going on. And how do I know to set it to true or to false? Well, if I connect this here, it'll know when it's true or false. Because when we press the button, it's set to true, and when we release, it's set to false. And so this is getting updated constantly through the input action, and so in the animation blueprint, it inherits it. So then we would just make sure to add it here, and that is how your conditions are coded. However, jumping is a bit different. Unreal has this super handy thing called state aliases, which is what we'll be doing instead. So let me actually go ahead and trash all that. Again, that was just for demonstration purposes. We don't want this. So back in our animation blueprint here, you see how we have our locomotion, which is our idle, walk, run. We'll add strafing, and if you were to do crouching, you could add that here as well. And if you go back to the anim graph, it's this cache pose, and in the main states, it just plugs into this. The reason why it's set up this way is to get the most use out of these state aliases. Now, to my understanding, state aliases are automatic rules that Unreal has set up based upon common mechanics that a lot of games use. So for example, jumping. These state aliases trigger without needing all of those special conditions that you code. It's because Unreal has its own way of doing it, and it makes it super convenient to get your animations to play more fluidly. So let me just go ahead and show you what I mean. So let me go and press play. I haven't implemented the animation yet, but I'll show you. So I can press the button and jump. Again, it's a little crazy because I accidentally changed the settings. And he enters that fall loop there. But if I go off a ledge, look, he entered into the fall loop and he landed, and I have the broken landing, but you get the idea. That's the power of state aliases. If we didn't use it, we would have to code jump and falling for every single thing, and like, oh, I fell off a ledge, now I need to code another thing and add a state for fall, and this makes it easier. So that is the basics of state aliases. Now let's actually go ahead and change our jump. So let me show you how to do the jump for when you are just doing one Elden Ring style jump, and then I'll quickly show you how to do it for if you have two separate jumps, which is what I've animated for this. Okay, so this is the jump that came with the template. I don't want that. Let me get all of my jumps. So I will do, I guess I'll just do my idle one for now. Jump idle, then go back to the main states, our fall loop. Plug that in here. And this is a loop, so you gotta make sure you go in and check loop animation. You can also double click it, and in the details panel, it should have loop. So that works great. And then back in our landing, this one is really important. I have a messed up setting in here, and that's why he shrinks and stuff like that. But to get rid of it, we will turn on a few settings. So let me open this up. To have your landing animations play properly, we want them to land as an additive animation. So whether your character is running or in an idle or sprinting, it plays that animation as if it's on an animation layer in Maya, and it'll play on top of the other cycles that we've made. So what we want to do is we want to, you probably will say no additive. You want to switch it to local space, and then choose a frame from your animation. I find that gets the best results. Often it'll just be the last one here, so I'll choose frame 9, that's fine. And we don't want to just plug it right in. And you'll see that if it's plugged right in and I haven't added any conditions for the additive animation, that's why he does the weird scaling. So what we need to do is this thing called apply additive. And then we want this to be our additive, and our base, we actually want it to be the cache pose locomotion, which is another reason why we set it up that way, or we just left it the way it was coded, so that our run cycles, our idles, and everything is all in one group that we can easily do the additive animation. So if I press play now, you'll see he doesn't scale anymore, which is great. Awesome, hooray. Now let me go ahead and quickly show you how you can do the other type of jump. So right now this works great, but there are actually tons of different ways you can connect animations to here. So look at this. I can drag out here, blend pose by. Look at all these different things. There's so many different ways we can blend different poses. Now we're just going to do blend pose by bool. It's nice and simple, either or, true or false type of thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the should move one, because this will say if the character is moving, then play the locomotion one, but if they are not, which is this condition here, play the idle one. So let me go ahead and I'll just copy all this here, paste it, and then for the additive I'll use my locomotion one. What am I in right now? The landing. Okay, so let me copy this and go back to the jump. I'll add the same thing. Let's see, jump, idle. This is the jump, so I need jump, locomotion. Where's that? Jump, locomotion. Okay, got it here. And then finally, let's go to the fall loop. Same thing, blend pose by bool, using whether the character is moving or not to determine whether they play the type of jump. So let me get my other locomotion one. Okay, awesome. So if I compile and save, it should work. If I press play, he does the idle one, which is great. And then if I move forward, he does the moving one. And if I stop, look at that. So this is a really handy tool to play different animations and keeping it nice and clean in like one little node here. So yeah, I hope that was helpful for you, and I hope it helps you to see the different blending options and the rules transitions. We'll be diving more into detail when we add more of our animations later on. So I'll see you in the next lessons.